Hi, thanks for coming to the podcast. We're so happy that you got a chance to jump on this one. This is going to be a fun one, not only because we have a special guest with us, but also because it's a way to really dive into what this whole thing is about serving with our gifts and what does it all mean. And I know from our work in the Fully Devoted book that gifts is presented in a really different way, isn't it? Before we were thinking only about ourselves and what we have, and now it's kind of shifted to what does God want us to do with this because He gave them to us. So joining me as usual is Matt Silver. Say hi, Matt.
Hello.
Anything else?
I'm keeping it short this week. This is our fourth week in a row. So, I want to keep
Yeah.
people in suspense.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see. Okay, joining us today is a co-planter, Carrie Silver, who actually is Matt's wife, in case you didn't know that. But Carrie serves on the staff here at ECC, but her passion lies in service. It always has. And so I want to introduce her to you and just ask Carrie, just fill us in a little bit on what your background is and why it's all linked to your really desire to serve God with your gifts.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this and to share this with the experienced community. My background is actually in mental health. Long before church planting was a thing for Matt and I have my master's in clinical counseling, and it has always been my preference to work with at-risk and underserved populations, specifically kids and adolescents. But of course, if you're going to work with kids and adolescents, you're going to work with their families too. And although they may come to my office for things like depression or ADHD, as you start to really learn about a family and the challenges they're having, you can't help but notice how housing problems and food insecurity and job loss and just all of the also important things in their life impact mental health. And it all comes together as part of one big story. And so serving is just a critical element to help walk with other people as they're having different challenges in their life that can not only help them practically, but can also serve them emotionally, relationally, and just a number of other ways. And so when we decided to accept the call to start Experience, we knew that serving was going to be a foundational part of Experience. And it was really important to us to not come into this community and just restart our own thing. Our goal was to partner with great organizations that are already doing the hard work. They've already made the connections. They've already established trust with families in need in our community. And so we just started researching and connecting and meeting with them, learning their vision for their organization and saying, we love this. How can we funnel resources and people and time in your direction? And we've been able to make some really dynamic partnerships in that.
Great. You know what I heard when you were explaining therapy and service? It almost seems like it's a holistic view of people's lives, that service is part of that, part of us as servers and part of those who get served. So that's really an exciting concept. So thanks for sharing that. For both of you. As we move into our regathering for those who don't know what that is, we've been remote online since we started the church back in November. But as we start thinking about bringing people back together, what are the challenges we're seeing in service as we look through the lens that's starting to clear of this pandemic and getting out of it? What are the challenges to volunteering? What are their opportunities, but also what are the challenges to help people re-engage personally in person? Either one of you or both.
Matt, you want to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. So obviously one of the greatest challenges is just people's comfort. Are they ready to come and be in a community environment? And we get that. We know that's a hard decision. It's a hard decision people make every day about work, about the grocery store, and now also potentially about church. And so it's the philosophy of Experience has always been, though, that we do church together. And so it would be hard to develop physical services to add to our digital services if we didn't have teams that were willing to help make those things happen. Because, of course, we want to also provide those services with the utmost safety and meaningful experience. And it's going to take people to do that. And so we've started talking to people, and we're not in a rush. And so as a community, when we feel ready to do this, that's when it'll happen. But whenever it happens, just like when we had physical services before, it's just a great way to be a part of the community, to serve together as a church. We have people that serve kids. We have people that serve as greeters, welcoming people. Now that would mean welcoming people in a way that there isn't touching and contact. So there's not going to be handshakes, but there might be elbows, or there might just be a wave across the room, whatever feels comfortable. And so there are many ways, whether it's setting up and tearing down, as I mentioned, kids, greeters, a safety team to help make sure we're following all the protocols and keeping our community moving forward with that. There's lots of different ways to help make physical gatherings just as meaningful as our digital gatherings have been.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, any comments more?
No, I think she always sums it up really well in more concise language than I can. It usually takes me the whole podcast to explain a concept. What I really enjoy about the idea of coming together and serving is that serving provides that opportunity for people. As one of the most powerful things in this book that I love that it talked about, it really is an idea of spiritual discipline. And so the opportunity to serve is actually helpful for people in their own spiritual walk, their faith, to see, oh, look how God's using me in that. And when that community comes together to serve, it's exciting. But as Carrie articulated well, we do not want people to feel like this is something that is crucial in their lives currently if they feel they're at risk. And so part of the tensions that I feel is making sure that those that come out versus those that stay home feel like they're both loved, they're equally cared for, and both provide great opportunities to still be part of the community. Service is exciting to me because I do look forward to being in a room with those that want to make it out and getting in that element of community again, that laughing, that buddying up, that working together for a common vision. And then hopefully first time guests come in and see those that we're not able to connect with on social media. So challenge for us, making sure both are effective and both are really well experiences for both people.
Great, thank you. So let's broaden this a little bit, this whole idea of service.
Mm-hmm.
So let me make sure I get this quote right. Richard Foster wrote in his book about the difference between choosing to serve versus being a servant. How would you encourage the listeners to incorporate this idea of servanthood versus just checking a box, I've served this week, into their everyday lives? I'll open this to both of you, but definitely to Matt, because I think that you talk to people more about this than the two of us.
Yeah, I remember doing this foundations class at one setting, and we were hung up on this. It was an interesting concept for people to get, like, what is this choosing to serve versus being a servant? And one lady put it in really good perspective. She is in the medical field, and her team would travel, some people that she knew well, some not, and they would offer medical services for a third world country. And as they were at this location, the hotel accommodations weren't well, where they were supposed to do the medical services did not have proper air conditioning and ventilation. And so they refused to offer it. And so they traveled all that way. And she was really upset because she's like, we still need to offer this, but some folks wouldn't do it. And so choosing to serve was, I'm willing to serve if these conditions are met, as opposed to, I'm flexible. God, what do you want me to do in this particular situation? Making the best of it. And I make that in terms of a dentist that I know who goes in a foreign country. And he said he was there operating in an open field. And he asked somebody for a hammer. They didn't have that. So he literally picked up a rock to knock someone's tooth out and offered care in the worst of circumstances. Yet he looked at it as an opportunity to serve God where it was. And so he's like, we don't have the right supplies. I'm here to care for these people, and we're going to make that happen. The other unique aspect of it is choosing to serve is very compartmentalized. I'm going to serve from this time to this time on this day and in this role. Where the lifestyle of a servant is that every moment at every day, you're looking for opportunities for God, use me where I'm at with my gifts and talents. And even if it's not gifts and talents, you don't have to have the spiritual gift of cleanliness to wipe down a bathroom counter when you're at Chick-fil-A or at other restaurant. That's just an act of service. That's great discipline. And you're choosing to have that lifestyle at all times.
Great, thanks. Carrie, you work with a lot of volunteers, especially at Experience, but you've done it in the past as well. If a lot of people approach service as just the checkbox, like Matt just described, at certain times, certain place, but even that can transform people's hearts. How have you seen people's hearts transformed just by the act of service, just by them coming out, seemingly just checking their box, but how have you seen people change?
I think that happens most often when it's a community-based service opportunity.
Okay.
Because I think ultimately what community-based service offers us is it's really easy when you sit at home and you watch the news or you become aware of these different organizations to kind of form an us versus them, like those people need served and we are not like that. And so it becomes kind of like a pity or like a hand down kind of situation. But when you go and you serve in these communities and you actually get to spend time with those who are in need of the service, and that's why we love some of the organizations we partner with, because you are rubbing shoulders. It's not, just like a very removed situation. You realize there is no us versus them. I can remember early on in the pandemic, one of the food banks that we serve with was very concerned that their clients would know that they were still open, food was available. They had changed all the protocols to make sure that all the food passing around would be completely safe and appropriate. And so they asked if a team from experience would come and call thousands of clients to say, we are open and we are here. And so I had a team who was absolutely willing to do that. And when you sit there and you realize you're calling college students and you're calling kids, families whose kids go to the same school as I do and live in my zip code. And also I'm calling names I can't pronounce. And I'm calling just, very elderly people. Like I could have stood next to these people, at the bank the week prior and had no idea. And so we're all in this together. And that's where the life change comes from, humbly realizing there is nothing that separates us except for whatever this particularly difficult circumstance this family might be going through at this time, but that could be my family just as easily.
Wow, that really changes people's perspective, I think, a little bit when they think about the us and them. There's a book that we've included in our resource list called When a Helping Hurts.
Mhm.
And this book, I read it probably 10 years ago when we were going on my first missions trip over to Kenya. And I can remember going there with that us and them attitude, but I read part of the book on the way there, and it just changed how I interacted with them, knowing that they are a human being just like I'm a human being, and they have needs and I have the same needs. And it really did change. And that applies to what we're doing right here in Pennsylvania. So that's really a great perspective to start to think about moving from serving to being a servant. So thanks for that, Carrie.
Okay, one
Matt,
thing there also,
go ahead.
Diane.
Yeah, go
One
ahead.
one thing that we both experienced when we were at the Exponential conference, and they really spoke highly of this, is everyone has something to offer. And it's at times it's those with fiscal resources think I'm at a place where I'm just here to serve you. And the concept of reciprocity, even with different levels of income, or they might not be able to match you with what they can give financially, but they can offer to pray for you and encourage you. And part of that is that mindset is, God, what can I learn from this individual I'm serving, or these individuals I'm serving with, or these people that I'm encountering today? God, what work can they offer for me? And it really removes that idea of, oh yeah, we're here to help those less fortunate. It's like, I'm unfortunate in a different way, not this particular area. And that was
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yeah, it really comes down to heart issue, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It just comes down to where your heart is and where you're accepting of Christ, and what he did for us. We just turn around, being as unworthy as we were to accept it, then turn around and offer that same grace and giving to another person. It really does change things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's get back to Experience Christian Church. Carrie, there's a couple of organizations that you are very passionate about, that we do have a lot of interaction with, but it's open to whatever you want to talk to us about what organizations can people jump into right now, for a little to a lot, and why you like those organizations especially.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly to your point. There's some organizations we love whose opportunities for connection are a bit limited at the moment. We are still in contact with them regularly. We are on their list as soon as things are ready to go again. But even right now, today, this coming Saturday, we have Good Works. We serve with Good Works the second Saturday of every month. Good Works does home repair for low income families, and they take that family for as long as it takes to get their home into a stable and safe place. And so we get to go there once a month as a team, work inside and outside. No expertise is needed. They'll teach you the skill set you need. But what we particularly love about this organization is that they also have ambassadors. They have people who just connect with the family. They're not fixing anything except just developing a relationship with the family. They stick with the family, they pray with the family, they check in on them, they help connect them to other resources if they need them. And so that goes back to that partnership of not just here's a Saturday and I'm done. It's we're going to love this family through this difficult time that they're in. Home of the Sparrow is another organization that helps specifically women and children that are facing homelessness in our county. They serve thousands of families each year. And again, they have caseworkers within their organization that partner with the family. They work with resource management, budget management, helping the children get clothes for school if needed. Whatever the needs are, they serve as a bridge to all of those different things, and they walk with the family through all of that. We love Home of Sparrow because we've done things like collect school supplies and collect things like that. But we also collect frozen meals for them because when the caseworkers go and visit their families each week, each month, whatever their need is, we're able to help make sure a warm meal goes to their home. And that just helps with the practical need of grocery relief, but it also just says someone was thinking about you as they put this meal together for you. They prayed for you. And so we try to help keep Home of the Sparrow's freezer stocked so that their caseworkers can take meals like that. That's something someone can do from the comfort of their home right now. We can come pick it up contactless. And so we're also just trying to find all the ways to keep active in our community while also keeping everyone safe.
Well, what always has amazed me about what we're doing, especially with, well, actually, both of these organizations that you mentioned, is just the practical needs they have. And I think a lot of people miss the fact that we're doing Christ's work, and our hands and feet are walking in there and loving those people with meeting practical needs versus, we'll go and pray for them, or we'll say a prayer for them, at Sunday service or something like that, versus going, and that's doing our not our duty, but it just giving back the love that God gave to us.
Yeah.
Comments on that? You go to Good Works every time, Matt. So how does that fit with what we do here at ECC? You go there. Wouldn't it be, don't you volunteer enough, on Sunday mornings and writing the messages? And isn't that enough for you, Matt? You
Yeah.
just need more.
Well, it's fascinating. When you look at a church community, we encourage individuals to serve, their community wherever they find themselves. But we do ask, as a family, they chip in around the house. That's the best language I would have, where you just devote an hour or what have you a month or whatever frequency you can, an hour a week, 4 hours a week. If you're part of our original setup team, we're sorry for that. Maybe you asked a little too much initially, but it's that idea of giving to the family, which I happen to be able to do that vocationally. But I also believe we are served well to serve outside of experience, at least myself. I get to rub shoulders with people outside of our organization, but also get to be on a very personal level with people in our church that want to come out and serve. It's also fills my tank. That's one of my favorite days of the month because I have an unending to-do list. But on that particular day, I get to walk in with a very specific list and I can actually accomplish something good while I'm loving people in a practical way. The families, as Carrie mentioned earlier, we get to journey with them for months at a time. And one of the great things about Good Works, it's, they make sure that the home is safe, heat, all those things, but they want to do a top to bottom and really do the things like power washing the exterior and just really want the homeowner to feel special and loved and cared for. And so it's just a great organization to be part of. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah. I remember at the beginning, way back, like even over a year ago, I dropped some things off at Home of the Sparrow, their office. And I can remember walking up the side stairs and they opened the door and the entire room where they sit and take phone calls was completely full of just things that were donated. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that as a community, we all serve each other. So Home of the Sparrow might be delivering it, but we're all delivering it together spiritually by giving to them. It's really exciting organization. So as we close our podcast, I want to remind everybody, we do have some resources posted on our podcast this time. This is the first time. So a couple of books, a devotional, probably will add to that as we uncover other things that have to do with the heart of a servant. But just don't forget to look at those and maybe read a couple of those books. I think that you'll get a lot out of them. So for the two of you, is there anything else you want to add to this? Any other organizations you want to mention? Any other ways that service has changed your heart? It's all yours.
I would just love to say that, as someone is considering service, it can feel overwhelming. Let's just even not take the pandemic out of all of it, but on a good day, it can feel overwhelming. Which organization? How much time? What if I don't like it? And I would just like to say, we would just love to partner with you to figure those questions out. We are not like, if you volunteer for Good Works, now you have to come every Saturday or something. If you hate it, we'll find something else. I find it's always helpful to start with the question, what breaks my heart in this world? And then you will find your natural why of an organization you're looking for. Because it's very easy to be like, well, of course we want to help homeless people. Of course we want to help food insecure people. But if that is not a passionate burden to you, and there's nothing wrong, some people just are more burdened by certain issues than others. When something else could come up on a Saturday, or when you just don't feel like making your own dinner, much less a dinner also for someone else, you will just start with all these negative emotions about serving and about all the things. But if you can always go back to your why you're doing this, because you would like to make one small dent in this issue that you care deeply about. And guess what? There's lots of other people that care deeply about, and you're all going to do it together. That can make all the difference. And so finding your issue, your challenge first is a great place to start. And then who's doing good work in that? We're happy to help figure that out with you.
Great advice. Matt, how about you?
I would just point out that there's that old mantra that I always like. It says, God does not call the equipped, he equips the called. And that whole idea is it may start with a nudge that, as Carrie mentioned, you may feel like, hey, I feel like I have a heart, a burden for this, but I just don't know how to get involved. As Carrie mentioned, just jumping in, and then God will equip you to do that. And if he doesn't, it's easy just to find out, oh, I'll cross that off the list. There's a shape inventory I think would be helpful to put as a resource. I can hand that to us as well. But that's just walks you through how God has uniquely wired you, your spiritual gifts, your heart, your attitudes, your personality and the experiences. So it really takes a holistic look at your life and how I could redirect it. The also aspect of it, and this is the less popular notion, is serving is a spiritual discipline in the sense where it doesn't always feel good, and that's okay too. We are called to love even when we don't feel like it, and sometimes doesn't mean begrudgingly serve forever, but there is this mindset of it's not always fun to push the cart back. It's not always fun to clean up. It's not always fun to do those little things. But the discipline of that really proves to be fruitful when you look at it through a lens of, hey, I really want to make a difference in the world. And it doesn't have to be something grand. It could literally be waving. Or I liked when we put on the social media what people did. And the one friend, he just said, I help people at the grocery store. While I'm walking around, I'm tall, I hand people items. During this time, that's all it takes to really change someone's day, is that someone being kind instead of ramming you with their cart, they're being kind and loving. And sometimes we just make service too big of a thing. Well, I don't have time to do it. It's like, actually just incorporate service wherever you are. The other thing that you mentioned, heart of a servant, and I know I'm going too long, but this is my last point. It got me thinking about the Christian org chart, the organization chart. And if you remember seeing that, you would have the organization chart typically has the president or CEO at the top, and it flows down to participants. Well, it was introduced, I don't remember who did it, may have been a church in Chicago or what have you, but they inverted that organization chart. So whatever leader of an organization is at the bottom of that chart, and his role is to then serve everyone up. So I think that's helpful as a pastor. My role is to serve all staff, all volunteers, and then all first timers. And what another connection point of that for me is, you've probably been at a place of employment where the boss didn't appreciate you, and you just have to it's just how the boss does it. Well, as a lead pastor or as a boss of an organization, you're serving everyone else in the organization, which means sometimes people don't appreciate you. And so serving doesn't always feel good. You do it because of the motivation that God gives us. And that always helps to connect those for me. So.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I can remember there was a church that I was serving at, and one of the things we did every year was to have this like a vacation Bible school kind of thing. And I got there early to help set up, and there was a room that was separated for volunteers who had small children.
Mm.
Now, if you know me, you know that is not really my heart place. All right, I'll be honest. I don't like kids that much. So they didn't show up. But so the only person that was available that could do it was me. So I actually prayed, oh God, don't let it be me. So I think just walking into that room and all these kids, there was like 11 or 12 of them, and they were like on like the most sugar ever because they were running around banging into walls. And I just stood there and I said, oh God, this is really not where you want me. Because I just wanted to start screaming at them. And then in behind me walked this other woman who was responsible to do that. And all I kept thinking was, thank you, God, for not letting me serve there, because I would have hurt them. I think I'd be really worried. So, but the willingness to serve changed me that day. The
Mhm.
willingness to go in and say, oh my gosh, he wants me to do this. So there must be something I'm supposed to learn. Maybe how not to yell. I don't know, but it just changed me. Even though I didn't have to do it, just my willingness to do it did something to my heart. It really did.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to an end. Don't forget the resource page. We'll actually add that shape inventory that you mentioned, Matt, to the inventory, to the resource page before we post it. So we'll include that. So if you have any questions or you want to reach out to either of these ridiculously good leaders who have a passion for service, please feel free to do that. That's Matt Silver and Carrie Silver, and they'd be glad to help you connect. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great week.
Thanks, Diane.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.